Hello, YouTube. Someone asked about building permits. So I'm going to make this about a bunch of different stuff, but we're going to start at building permits for cabins. First off, I would not live in any state that requires a bunch of bullshit to get a building permit. This is any populous state. Any state with a whole bunch of people, they're going to be worried about this. Okay? And the bigger thing you build, the harder it's going to be to build it. So, my advice to you on building permits is at Oklahoma, for example, or Missouri, for example, or Kansas, if the building is under X size, it doesn't need a permit at all. And like a lot of these cabins fall into that territory. Uh, know what that limit is, build at that limit, would be my advice to you. My other advice to you would be in most of these states, it's a hassle to go and pay for a building permit and get a building inspector out or whatever it is that you're going to have to do this. But if you do it in a state like Texas or Oklahoma, it is minimal compared to like California, New York, Montana. Like these are states that it would be impossible to do this in. Okay, Alaska, you could definitely do this, and people do this all the time in Alaska. But basically, what I'm trying to do here is do in Missouri and Oklahoma and Arkansas and these cheap states in the continental U.S. do what they're doing in Alaska to make some of this land that is not so habitable in Oklahoma and Missouri and Arkansas someplace that I could live. And like this is the key for finding anything, right? When I go to look to buy something, I do if I have all the money in the world, I just go buy what I want. But I don't normally have all the money in the world. And even if I did, I like a bargain. So what I do is I figure out what it is I want. Car, rifle, whatever. What is the thing? If it's a minivan, it's a minivan. If it's a 308 rifle, it's a 308 rifle. But you need to know what that is. Look at the available options that are out there, and then start hunting. And this is how you do anything, right? Like you don't just go buy, you know, uh, the first fucking acre that you see. You don't go buy the first rifle that you see or whatever. You buy the right one at the right price, and that's how you should do most of this shit in my mind. And when you're doing that, I would look into building permits and all of that when buying the land. See what you actually have to do to build there. Like this is important shit, and it matters. But to some extent, if you put your head on your shoulders and buy land in the right state, it doesn't matter so much. I was on some other tangent, but I don't remember exactly what that was. I've been shopping all day. I got some cute tops. I'm pretty fucking happy. Had a hamburger. Life update in the middle of the building permit discussion. Sorry about that. Uh, yeah, I don't know. When it comes to anything else, if you're going to build a big house, you want probably inspections and building permits and shit because at that point, like, either you're doing a lot of work yourself or you're hiring contractors. If you're hiring contractors, you want it done right. Uh, my goal would be to never hire contractors, never hire anyone out to do anything. We do it all ourselves, and fuck the government. This is another option to go. I kind of intend for my house, like, there's a part of me that's like, yes, build a normal house. And there's another part of me that's like, put a fucking, 8 by 10 shed on it and make that the entryway. Or make that into a fake house with a bed and a nightstand and like an old dead laptop in it or some shit like that. That's all that's fucking in there besides a cat box. Okay, and wherever your real house is, it's dug into the ground and built like a hobbit home, and you know this is a way to go. And this is some shit that if you did that, I wouldn't even bother with permit. I'd look up what the maximum size building I could put up without a permit is, and then I would do that as the shed on top to throw people off. And I wouldn't have the entrance to that be through the shed either, probably. It would be obvious. I'd probably have a different entrance in a different place, but I would like my land to be to the point to where when the federal government is standing on it, they don't know I'm there. Maybe that's going a bit far. I doubt I'm going to go that far, but I would really like to. I would love to build one little cabin and have everything else be fucking underground. Or sandbag bunkers or fucking shit built blended into the woods. My cabin, I'm kind of thinking about putting up a basic plywood structure, right? And then putting up like Tyvek maybe on it, painting the Tyvek or painting the wood and then Tyvecking it, one version or the other of that. And then I'm just gonna get like a fucking nail gun and a whole bunch of Native Americans used to call it squaw wood. This is wood that is, sticks and shit that you could break with your hands and over your legs, usually about an inch to inch and a half in diameter. That's what Native Americans would call squaw wood because women went and picked it up. You could take a bunch of this and just with a nail gun and start nailing that shit all over the side of your house. And you build up a couple of layers of that shit, it'll protect the painted fucking wood, A. And B, from a distance, like your metal roof and shit might stand out. But that, big ass plywood building or whatever is going to be pretty camoed by the squaw wood. I think that's probably what I'm going to do. Make it disappear into the forest a little bit. I don't know what I'm going to do about the roofs. I want metal roofs so they last longer. And they're always going to stick out like a sore thumb. There's nothing you can do about that. And I guess like this video is probably not the typical building permits video for an off-grid cabin because I'm telling you how not to get a building permit because fuck them. That's how I feel about it. I want to go build my own cabin. I don't want them to have any fucking say about it whatsoever. And I don't think they should have a say about it whatsoever. I pretty much plan on building everything I'm going to build and then just waiting for the feds to show up. And you know what? If they come after me for building 2 off-grid cabins connected by a fucking, cat tunnel with an observation deck in the middle of it and, some walkways to outdoor showers and bathrooms, I don't know. Like, I guess we'll have bigger problems. And, like, that's kind of where I'm at with this is they're going to have much bigger fish to fry than me. I honestly, like, if you want my real advice, burn your fucking driver's license, burn your birth certificates, burn your social security cards, and walk off. Do what you want to do. Go where you want to go, buy the land you want to buy, make the money you want to make. Ignore the fact that they fucking exist because they're about not to. Here pretty soon, the federal government is going to go away. And I know that because no one is going to keep doing their jobs when they're not getting paid. And it's really hard to pay the cops when there are no bureaucrats, and it's really hard to pay the bureaucrats when there's just no money. And we're watching this happen right now. So if you think you need a building permit, cool, go try to get one. If you're more in my mindset, fuck the government. Build it at fucking 200 square feet or whatever the max is, and then build another 200 square foot building, and then another 200 square foot building, and then another 200 square foot building. And maybe don't interconnect all of those with, outdoor hallways, but really I think you could. Like, if they're freestanding structures connected by a bridge, that should be, I don't know. These are the questions that I would have to ask somebody, and that I personally am of the philosophy that it is much better and easier to ask forgiveness than permission, always. It's just like when you're about to do something to a chick in bed. If it's something you know chicks like in general, just do it. Okay? Like, there are things you should ask permission for. Okay? But when you, like, you shouldn't just, like, run up and grab a chick by the fucking pussy. Probably not a good idea. But if you're naked and in bed together and she bends over and you want to lick her pussy, go for it. The worst thing she can do is fucking, freak out about it and slap you, probably laughing. There's no downside to it. It's the same thing here with these fucking building permits and shit. Build all the shit you want. If they do fucking come after you for it or whatever, pay the permits and pay the fees. They'll let you keep your shit. And in reality, they probably aren't even going to fucking come after you, especially not if you're building small buildings way outside of towns, off the grid. They don't care about you. They won't even consider those to be like an addition to the value of your property usually. And like this is the other advantage is you don't want to have something that people can tax. If you have cabins that look like this shit here, where in these pictures where like that one towards the top with the green roof, that is a mansion. It's huge. When the tax assessor sees that thing, your property value is going to go up. You're going to owe more money in property taxes. And the game here is how uncomfortable are you willing to live for the amount of property taxes that they're going to make you pay? And this is a thing you should probably consider. And it's why I'm trying to live small, because I think eventually they're just going to go nuts on this shit. I think they're going to go nuts on this shit to the point where they're going to come take my cabin and your house and whatever. Like, because you didn't pay your property taxes that they fucking told you that you owed. This is coming. And this is why you should have a rifle in your cabin. And that's the other thing is pretty much go do what you want to do. If they end up getting too fucking, chompy at the fucking bit, throw it up on the internet and start telling people your fucking story. Like, look at what happened with Bundy Ranch and shit like that. What they're doing is wrong. They have no right to fucking interfere in your life to make you get a permit to build an off-grid cabin. Bunch of horse shit. And like, if you're in a state where they're going to do that, then fuck that state. You should be leaving that state. Like, there's a whole bunch of states that, like, in reality, I think should be fucking a lot of things. But like California and New York, for example, should not be states. They should be kicked out of the United States for fucking... It's complicated, but basically the states' constitutions are supposed to be somewhat sort of like the federal constitution as far as their rights and whatever. And California seems to think that you have no rights. New York seems to think that you have no rights. I had a very interesting conversation at a bank earlier today that was all about how to form a corporation to still do whatever the fuck you want. And I might do that. I mean, they made Citizens United a thing, right? Corporations are people. I'm going to make like 4 or 5 different corporations and run all my shit through them. I really wish I could figure out a way to peaceably protest and cause a shitstorm for them without getting shot in the head for it. That's what I would really like to do. But I seem to be running into a fucking roadblock on that because, like, I honestly think there's a snowball's chance in hell of anyone doing anything to stop this shit. And I think if someone like me tried and actually got a movement behind them, I would be shot in the head. And if you want to know why I think that, go look at Martin Luther King. Go look at anyone who they've shot in the last 100 years. It's worrying. And that's half of why, like, I've decided basically just to go build my own cabin, do my own thing, do my own projects, and kind of, I told you guys to go watch the movie Jeremiah Johnson. I did a video review of it, and half of the reason I told you guys that is because that movie is the way in so many ways. Like Jeremiah Johnson in that movie, it's like 1870 ish, and they're settling the Colorado Territory, and he asks the army party that he is being forced to lead, "So is the war over?" And he's like, "Which war?" "The war with Mexico." And then this guy looks at him crazily because, like, the War of Mexico was 30 years ago. It was in the 1840s. Like, he's at least a war, two wars behind. Like, they're currently fighting the Indian War, and they just finished up the Civil War. And Jeremiah Johnson didn't know, didn't care, didn't want to care. Barely cared enough to ask if the war had ended after 30 years. This should be you. Uh, why concern yourself with the problems of others? Like, if they get us nuked, there's nothing we can do about that. Then you get nuked, right? Like, we'll die in a flash or whatever. We'll be some of the unfortunate survivors. I honestly, I can't live my life with that. Okay. I can't live my life preparing for that. I think that's most people. Like, if they're stupid enough to do that, cool. The world's over. Doesn't really matter anyway. And my kind of philosophy of it is, no matter what happens on this planet, life will continue, re-evolve, and eventually reemerge. And you that are listening to this, in my opinion, are souls inhabiting meat puppets. You're basically like giant balls of light living inside of a meat puppet. And maybe your meat puppets will look different when you come back next time after the nukes go off. But, you know, other than that, like, maybe you'll be cool like fish people or cat people. That'll be cool. And then you can all, run and frolic, and the cat people can eat the fish people, and then the fish people can be like, why did the cat people take all of our ancestors from cat land over to fish land all them years ago and like keep us in chains? It'll all be the same. It doesn't matter. And maybe this is just my nihilism peeking through or some shit, but like, they have made this world so fucked up that nothing I care about matters. So I'm going to go create a world where what I care about matters. And that's off grid homesteading in the woods at this point because that's all that's left to us. If someone had a better plan, I'd be all game for it. But no one seems to have a better plan. If no one has a better plan, then I'm going to encourage others to at least do what I'm doing, which is to dig in, endure, get through this, and figure out what you're going to do on the other side of it after you see what the fallout of all of this technological advancement and war is going to be, because that's exactly what we're about to see happen in the next 5 to 10 years. The amount of tech that is going to be put forward and advanced because of this war effort is going to be insane. If we do go to war with Russia in Europe, like a land war, we're going to have a whole bunch of kids coming back missing limbs and shit. And there are programs already being built and developed to fully integrate biomechanical limbs into people. This is a thing that's going on. Once they start doing that, it'll be a quick road to integrating fucking computer wizardry into our fucking bodies and brains and shit. And like, I don't know. I don't want any of that shit. And I'm not saying they're going to force us to get that shit, but it's going to become in vogue and popular and la la la. And like, they don't ever force you to do anything. It's like, in order for evil to win, you have to make a free choice to go and do it. They need you to choose to do X. And I'm not saying having a biomechanical arm necessarily makes you evil. What I am saying is cutting off a perfectly healthy arm to replace it with a biomechanical arm, that's wrong. There's a whole bunch of other shit that's wrong that they're about to do. They're wanting to download people into computers, and that'll solve the planet crisis or carbon crisis or whatever real fast, right? Because then there won't be most people won't have bodies. And if you don't have bodies, you're not using carbon. You're just a little chain of code locked in a computer forever, unable to get out of their machine and system, being perpetually kept alive, tortured endlessly forever. That's what they want, in my opinion. Uh, they are counting on you being afraid of death. Do not let the fear of death enter your heart. Sing your death song like a hero going home. That's all I got on this one. Kind of a depressing, wandering through this sort of shit, but maybe somebody like this. Talk to you guys later.